Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devils Friday. This is the Woo Report. The Woo Report, episode 222. 222. Wow, it's been that. Wow, that's a lot of episodes. I'm your host, Sam Woo. Streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network as everyone's filing in on a Friday night. Don't you people have lives? Shouldn't you be somewhere gallivanting over to a party, over to a bar, maybe having family over, friends over, or whatnot? No, you want to talk a little Devils hockey. Yeah, that's what we do here on the Woo Report. Some news today. Just want to say hello to everybody, make a little small talk. If you remember that small talk we had, what they do up in Canada, you need to make a little small talk before you get to business. Joseph says, hey. And the YouTube Live, Eddie Allen says, what's up, Sam? I really like that signing. Hopefully he can teach the young guys. And what do you think about getting Timo Meier? I'll get to that in a sec, Eddie. Also, Facebook Live, going bar hopping here. Happy Devils Friday to you, Mike Rossi. Ramona Rice, bar hopping from YouTube Live to Facebook Live. Ramona, you're out of Facebook jail. She goes, let's go Devils. Ramona from Kentucky. Also, Nate Milbank. Greetings from Washington, D.C., Sam. LGD. Now, that's a hardcore fan. Nate, thank you. Michael Pedrosa says, greetings from Washington Township. Well, Michael, hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Yeah, you know what? Tell me where you're from. That's always the question I always ask. Where are you from? Are you from Jersey? Is that where you're living right now? Where are you from? Because I want to know where everybody's at, because we have podcast listeners in India, New Zealand, Australia, Germany, UK, Canada, obviously the United States. Could we be in Mexico? I don't know, but only you could tell me. As we're doing the Woo Report, Devils hire Ryan McGill as assistant. I've been talking about this the last month, about the Devils defense. Earlier this week, they did sign Jonas Siegenthaler to a 5-year deal, $3.4 million AAV. And isn't this funny that they signed Ryan McGill, who is a former NHLer, unfortunately had a puck to the eye incident, very similar to Colin White, now declared legally blind and had to retire early. I think he's 54 years old, plenty of experience, but right-handed defenseman. Is that a coincidence? I put that tweet out earlier today. With a glut of right-handed defensemen, they get an assistant coach who is a former right-handed defenseman. Some people asked on Twitter, well, wasn't he a goon? And then there's some people that say, well, that doesn't matter nowadays because the era he played was, that's what they used to do. That had nothing to do with today's. Look, Ryan McGill, from what I've read, they're going to have a pretty solid defense. He's going to quarterback that defense. Actually, I shouldn't say quarterback. Wrong use of term. Sorry, it's a late week. It's Friday night. I'm using different terms. He's going to coach that defense. And I think the Devils, look, I thought last year they weren't that bad on defense, some stretches. But it's the young team syndrome that the Devils have. The consistency. And we've talked about this on this podcast, that I wanted some beef. I want more beef. I want them to clear out the crease. I want them to impose their physical brand of hockey on the opponent. You've got a defense that has, for next season, Dougie Hamilton, Ryan Graves, both 6'5" and up. You've got Kevin Ball lurking, trying to make the roster. You got Damon Severson, who stands at 6'2", on skates, probably 6'4". Jonas Siegenthaler, who is steady back on the blue line. John Marino, 6'1". He's not going to give you the size like Dougie Hamilton or Ryan Graves, but you know what? He is bigger than Ty Smith, who was traded for John Marino. And, you know, there's some say that I think Ryan Novozinski of NJ.com, soon to be a good friend of this podcast because I think he's coming on very soon, remarked that they may not be done, the Devils, in terms of coaching. They may be looking at others. But getting Ryan McGill, kudos to Ryan Novozinski of NJ.com, putting his 3 candidates and McGill being number 2 on his list of actually coming to New Jersey and trying to get this defense back in order. Like I said, the consistency wasn't there last season. Part of it is injuries. Goaltending was lackluster. Again, injuries to the Devils defense. And just remember, the Devils brand in franchise histories was the defense. You know, Devils, the first 2 letters is spelled with D and E. Same with defense. It was always synonymous. But now this is a new era. And we want defense. I love defense. I mean, as much as I like Jack Hughes and, the fun and gun, yeah, it's exciting. But I love defense. And as what Denny says, a little toughness, maybe Ryan McGill can teach. And you bet you can. You can teach grit, folks. Okay? You can really do all of these things. It's all in your head, your mindset when you're out there on the ice. I see Ramona Rice bar hopping from Facebook Live now to YouTube Live. So she's a double dipper of this fine programming called The Woo Report. And Ryan McGill, again, I'm going to reserve making predictions because I thought for sure Mark Recchi was the guy to get this high-powered power play in order, and I think it was more of the power play got electrocuted with all these shorthanded chances going the other way. But we should have accountability, is what Craig Best says in the Facebook Live. And Ramona Rice wants to see the gloves drop. Look, in today's NHL, the game is played differently than it was 25 years ago. We've learned to accept that. Well, some have. Some haven't, actually. But I've learned to accept that. But there's still some principles in that hockey grit and toughness that you can still incorporate in today's game. For example, you never want to take a bad penalty, but you still want to establish positioning. We talked about the no fun zone, NFZ. For all those that don't know what NFZ stands for, it stands for the no fun zone. The analytics community calls it the high danger area. Basically, a rectangle in front of the goaltender's crease where a lot of goals are scored in the NHL. And you have to establish positioning. And by doing that, you can't be out of position. I would fully expect Ryan McGill, as the assistant coach running the defense, kind of like in football, the defensive coordinator here, to make sure that Mackenzie Blackwood, Mac Black, and Vitek Vanacek can see the puck coming to them. That they eliminate a lot of the chaos that's in front of the goaltender, which often leads to goals, high danger chances. And you've got to establish positioning, impose your will against your opponent's forwards. That is why Tom Fitzgerald went out and got beef when he signed Dougie Hamilton, traded for Ryan Graves. That's beef, folks. Kevin Ball was traded in that whole Taylor Hall trade from Arizona. Why? Because he brought the beef. He brought the size. The size has reach, and the reach has disruption in the opposing team's passing lanes through the no-fun zone and into the defensive zone. So just remember that we love defense, or at least I love defense. And then what Tom Fitzgerald, at least on paper, the moves he's made by getting John Marino, moving Ty Smith. We talked about this many, many times last season, especially in Devils After Dark. It is that outlet pass, that first pass from our defenseman up the ice. It's got to be crisp. It's got to be accurate. It can't be lazy passes. It can't be turned over. Lazy passes up the middle. How many times did we see that last season? Many times. They don't use the boards. They pass it up the middle, in the middle of the ice. Just the opposing team just waiting to take that puck the other way. And we want to see better defense, but a much better transition game, which is why the Devils got John Marino. They didn't get John Marino to shoot the puck on the net, although he should be doing it more often. They got John Marino because he's steady back there, and that first pass is important. When you have the skating momentum, if you're Jack Hughes or Jesper Bratt, who we will talk about soon, you want to go with that momentum. It's all about the flow of the game. And I'm banking on that Ryan McGill will fix that defense. And then once the puck is turned over and it's in Devils possession, boom, boom, it's out of our zone safely in a smart way, and the attack will go the other way. And I think the transition game is going to have to be, it starts with the defense. It always has. Rob Klobosa says, I so feel our problems are goalie. Rob, you're not going to like what I have to say. That is really Captain Obvious statement there. But the goaltender does need help. Oftentimes last season, again, the goaltenders were left to dry. There were times where the opposing forward isn't left in front of the crease. That's not good defense. Now, I will say this, though. Goaltending was a problem. For starters, number one was they couldn't stay healthy. Mackenzie Blackwood was really laid up right from the get-go. Jonathan Bernier, well, I'm not sold he was healthy at the beginning of the season, but what choice did the Devils have but to run Bernier opening night? And then Nico Dawes, you cannot expect Nico Dawes to play that many games and expect him to get 20, 30 wins. That's simply not going to happen. It's not that Nico Daws sucks. I think Nico Daws had no business being in the NHL when he should have been developing at Utica, which, by the way, Akira Schmid and Nico Daws had a heck of a season with the Utica Comets, who had a good defense playing in front of them. They come up to the big club, and they got schooled. But I thought Nico Daws, honestly, held his own, all things considering. I still think he's a year or two away. And I think a full season in Utica would be beneficial for Nico Daws. I know Scotty and I talked about it on Devils After Dark, but it's like, yeah, he does show promise. There is the potential there in Nico Daws. Could he be the goalie of the future? But as far as I'm concerned right now, he should be in Utica. He should be developing as a player, not being thrown to the fire out of desperation because you couldn't get your right goaltender in place. Strike one, Corey Crawford for Tom Fitzgerald. Strike two, Jonathan Bernier. Strike two for Tom Fitzgerald. Vitek Vanacek, he's got a shot. He's got a shot, and he better perform because signing that 3-year deal, we would expect something better than the last 2 years. Mackenzie Blackwood, Mac Black, well, I got to tell you, he could have a comeback year. And he could possibly blossom. But it's up to Mac Black. And I've said this before, it wasn't too long ago that Team Canada was taking a hard look at Mackenzie Blackwood. But like what I said to Rob Klabosis, you may not like what I have to say, but it's both goalie and defense. It's not just the goaltender. You cannot have success just relying on your goaltender. You still need to play defense. Okay? And then some people can make the argument, well, you got to stop some of these breakaways every once in a while, even though it's not the goalie's fault. Yes, that's true. But if all these odd man rushes are going back the other way, you got more problems than just a goaltender. You've got breakdowns. There were so many times, how many turnovers that the Devils caused, not only in their own defensive zone with those bad outlet passes, lazy passes, but no-look passes to no one, and the transition goes the other way, and suddenly it's a 3-on-1. Do you expect your goaltender to be saving all those high-danger chances every single time? Let's be realistic here. Shesterkin, okay, he's one of a kind. You can't expect your goaltender to be a Shesterkin or Dominic Hasek or a Martin Brodeur or a Patrick Waugh. Okay, those are not a dime a dozen goaltenders. And it's been proven in the NHL that you do not need elite goaltender to win the Stanley Cup. Colorado Avalanche was an example of that. Definitely an example of that. But as what Shorts guy said, you do need a elite goaltender if you want any chance of building a dynasty, which the Tampa Bay Lightning got very close to almost the third Stanley Cup in 3 years with Vasilevsky in net. So think about that. But in recap, I think the defense, it's going to take about 10, 20 games into the season to really see what Ryan McGill can do. I'm pretty excited. A fresh voice. Alain Nasreddine was there for many years with John Hines, then interim coach, which I thought he did decent. And then the 2 seasons under Lindy Ruff. Granted, 9.5 months without any hockey didn't really help Nasreddine's cause, but he had plenty of chances to fix that defense, and it just simply didn't happen, especially on one of the youngest teams in the NHL, where I think they are the third youngest team in the NHL, the New Jersey Devils. Tony P in the YouTube Live says, we need Uncle Steve to buy the Devils. You know what? You need Uncle Sam to buy the Devils. And I'm not talking about that Uncle Sam. I'm talking about Uncle Sam, me, to win the lottery tonight so I could buy the team, and then we can change some things. Some people may get fired if I own the New Jersey Devils. Not going to tell you who yet. I got to win first. Jacob Schmo, let's go Devils, baby. That's right, Jacob. Let's go Devils. Douglas Walker, they do a lot of passing to each other on their own, and instead of someone skating it out, when they have room to do it. Nate Milbank improving our defense takes the pressure off of Vanacek and Mac Black. Exactly. And also, goaltending is also a game of confidence. You got to, sometimes if your defense isn't performing, and as a goaltender, your timing is on, it's just, your confidence gets rattled. It's a marriage, your defense and your goaltending. That's why it's a team concept. Rock Labosa said, if you own the Devils, Sam, make me head of social media. Rob, let me tell you something. I like you, man. If I do that, please do me a favor, because this kind of pisses me off with Devils social media people. They're obviously not from New Jersey, because some of the sayings, like when John Marino was traded and other players, they would tweet out, hey, we got John Marino. Welcome to Jers. Nobody from New Jersey ever says that. And it's annoying. So, Rob, if you promise me that you won't tweet out, welcome to Jers, you would have the job if I was the owner of the New Jersey Devils. Matter of fact, why don't you, when we trade for, when I'm the owner of the New Jersey Devils and we trade for Connor McDavid, I hope you tweet out, Rob, welcome to New Jersey, son. Inside joke with Rob Klobosis. Anyway, Facebook Live, I see everybody commenting. Brian, hello. Let's see. Just looking through the comments here. Again, going back to Tony P, we need Uncle Steve to buy the Devils. He's talking about Steve Cohen, my favorite owner of the New York Mets. It's like amazing when the guy just doesn't care about making money and he just wants to build something special here with the New York Mets, and he's just spending, and willing to take a $600 million loss, and there's nothing the Yankees can do about it, because for years, that's all the Yankee fans and the Yankees have done, is just basically poach everybody and just outspend. But it's amazing what happens when the Mets have money, and then all the Yankee fans are like, oh, you can't say that, even though we did for 25 years, and our players did steroids, and they didn't cheat. Enough. That's what I'm telling myself. Okay, so Jesper Bratt. Also, Elliot Friedman on his podcast, 32 Things, saying that there's pretty much radio silence on the Jesper Bratt front on contract negotiations. Looking like, if I was a media, if I was in the media and I'm writing stories, I'd be a little pissed that there's radio silence, because there's nothing to report. Sometimes silence is deafening. Silence is bad. But really, this is just a negotiation. Basically, what they're saying is, okay, we're going to wait till the last minute, and then we're going to make a deal. Because right now, this is a lame duck gap between now and the arbitration hearing, which I believe is August 3rd or August 4th, coming up very soon. But either way, Jesper Bratt's going to get paid, is what Michael Hay says in the Facebook Live. So, I'm not going to read into that there's radio silence. I think Jesper Bratt wants to get paid. I think the Devils want Jesper Bratt, but they're concerned about the AAV. They're concerned about a few things. But right now, the Devils did not get their stud finisher. They did not get their stud winger in the top six. Lost out on Gaudreau. Lost out on Tkachuk. But you got to sell what you got. And Jesper Bratt, is he that guy? He had one breakout year, and that was last season. The timing couldn't have been perfect for Jesper Bratt. But can Tom Fitzgerald re-sign him as a restricted free agent under his terms? That's the question we'll be waiting for very soon, as it's July 29th, and that arbitration hearing is inching closer. And remember arbitration hearings. Sometimes players' feelings get hurt, and then there's resentment, because it's the job of Tom Fitzgerald to go in there and bang down the price. And sometimes it may get ugly. So hopefully that they can get an agreement. An agreement, any kind of agreement, is a good agreement. And Rob Klobos is also reminded me about Palat, but Palat is not that finisher, like a DeBrincat, like a Gaudreau, like a Tkachuk, like a Tarasenko. Palat is a needed veteran role player that the Devils overpaid, that has championship experience. And I think if Palat is a leader in that locker room, and Palat leads by example, and they do all the little nitty-gritty things that don't show up on the stat sheet well, and he has this infectious personality where they follow what Palat does, the Devils will be a much better team. David China says 8 years, $6.966 million per for Bratt. I don't know if that's overpaying, but that's a lot to give to one of your players after one breakout season and with a history of needing to get benched to get going. Hopefully that's all behind us. Remember Pavel Zacha in the shortened season. We all thought he was going to be doing great. Breakout season, and then last year it was then shipped off to Boston. But maybe on paper the Devils are better. But you really don't know till the season starts and the health of these players. Who's in and who's out. And can Jack Hughes actually maintain, his health for an entire 82-game season? Nico Hischier, he had a freak accident. I think Nico has the ability to play all 82 games. Absolutely. Dawson Mercer, he's already proven that already. Dawson Mercer, I hope he doesn't have that proverbial sophomore slump. But I could tell you, Dawson Mercer, I'm hoping he's going to have a great year, because the Devils are going to need him. They're going to need him as he's on the entry-level contract. AI Skates says, no, Palat actually scores in the playoffs. Johnny Hockey, Tarasenko are not that dependable in the playoffs. Yeah, you know what? You're right, but you got to get to the playoffs, AI Skates. Also, he's kind of like that Claude Lemieux. Some players in the playoffs, that's when they show up. When they do all the little things very well. And some players create their own luck. They just create their own luck. And how does luck happen in the NHL? because there's this saying, I'd rather be lucky than good, but the harder I work, the luckier I'll get. So take that. Think about it. As this is the Woo Report on a Friday night. All you folks. A lot of bar hopping going on social media. Twitter. I see some Twitter jumping to Facebook Live, jumping to YouTube. It's not like it's any different. Oh, this season coming up, we're going to be in season 6 come September, 5th year anniversary. We already have our logo redesigned for the 5th year. And Rob Klobos has asked, the GM from my Chimney Rock Inn, which is, I know where that is. Rob, I pass there often. How do you, ask me, how do you feel about the Devils this year? I said it on paper, we look great. But we will make it happen is a whole different story. Yeah, you got that right, Rob. You tell your GM, if he's got the wingies ready, I'll do a podcast at Chimney Rock. Definitely. I'll do the podcast at Chimney Rock. I know where you're at. I'll even do it at China Moon down in Flemington. Again, inside joke with Rob Klobos. Joseph says, congratulations, thank you. We're going to announce our podcast numbers on Monday, but we're in record territory, and this podcast is really a top 25 podcast in the entire NHL and hockey podcasts on Apple Podcasts. I mean, there are some days we rank higher than Don Cherry, some major media companies. I don't know how this happens. And we're starting to get more listeners in Canada. But keep it here, keep it real. This is the Woo Report. Let's go Devils.